mayor, what is one of the first things you hope to accomplish? And please be specific.
Well, that's a really wonderful question. Thank you, Al. So I've worked for the last number of years with the Main Street Alliance, which is a nonpartisan lobbying organization that supports small businesses, both in metro and rural areas nationwide. And one of the initiatives that I've worked on with them significantly is the childcare crisis. So both with COVID, and actually even more with COVID and what's happening with the uncertainty with childcare in schools, but also in general, our Chamber of Commerce recently reported this spring that there were 300 families that were without childcare, and so it's a huge problem. So last fall in September, I went to Detroit. I was brought there as part of that Main Street Alliance group, and I worked with regional representatives, legislators, public servants, and people from all over the United States that support early childhood and childcare initiatives. So that is a big challenge for our community, and I think that it's one of the things that I want to be able to work with our local community partners to continue to enhance the opportunities for our childcare and the education as children move forward.
Okay, good, thank you. And so Bobby, the same question to you. What, if elected, what is one of the first things you hope to accomplish?
Well, Al, and for the audience, I will tell you that after serving on the budget committee for 4 years, right now, safety, economic growth, and streets are going to be our top 2021 priorities. It doesn't matter who's the mayor, that's where the budget is set, so that's what will be the priorities for the city. But for me personally as the mayor, I got to tell you folks, I'm a little concerned about the level of anxiety that COVID has brought. I'm so tired of talking about COVID, but there's some real opportunities here. And I think that if we can continue what we do very well in Alexandria, which is collaborate and diversify, we are going to pick some real winners from this opportunity, and that's going to help us develop some awesome business opportunities. It is going to require that we think differently than we have in the past. Like I said, the budget is set for this. That's based on past experience as a city council member, that these are the things our constituents want us to address financially. But we need to start thinking differently, even about those subjects. And so for me, it's going to be something that pulls our community together and helps us pull out the positive of this whole COVID thing we're going through.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. And then Todd, same question to you. If elected, what is one of the first things you hope to accomplish?
You know, this is actually a much tougher question than you might have originally thought. It seems like recently our priorities change daily with what's going on out in the world. If you'd asked me this same question 6 months ago or a year ago, I'd have said our main 3 priorities in Alexandria are housing, childcare, and labor force. And the problem is they're all tied together so tight. Last year when our housing study came back, it showed that our vacancy rate in Alexandria was only 1.3%. And that's way too tight. We can't sustain with that type of vacancy rate. We need housing. It's not any specific type of housing. It's not low income housing. It's not full market value housing. It's not senior housing. It's everything across the board. We're that tight. Part of the problem is without the housing, you can't draw people in. If you don't have daycare, as business owners, you know that you need all 3 of those things. You need childcare and housing to be able to get the workforce in, and we're just not able to draw that in. So those are my priorities. When a couple of years ago in 2018, I had the opportunity to participate in the Blandon Community Leadership Program up in Grand Rapids, and when we got back, there was a group of us that formed that we're working on housing. It's not something the city is involved in. It's not something that was mandated. We got together as a group to work on trying to figure out how to solve some of these housing issues so that we can address these needs like the child care, like the labor force issues. So those are my priorities.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Then we will go on to the next question, which will start with Bobby on this one. If you had to grade the current council, the mayor, how would you grade them? What are they doing right, and what could use some improvement?
Okay, well, I'm not gonna tell stories, even though I could. I think that our current council is probably B to C. There's always something that we could improve. The one thing that I am concerned about is sometimes an unwillingness to understand where each other is at. Now we're by district, so we're here to represent the constituents in that district, but at the end of the day, we need to do what's right for the whole community. The mayor does not vote. So the mayor's job is, and this is part of the grading system, we have an amazing mayor. The mayor's job is to be glue, is to hold this group together, make sure that they stay focused and don't go out and chase shiny objects. And I think that, yeah, you know, and I'm gonna stay with the B. I think we really are all very vested in doing what's right for our community. I also think there's always room for improvement.
All right, good. Then we go down to Todd.
Yeah, I think our current council does a very good job. One of the things that I've enjoyed about being on council for the last 8 years is we challenge each other and we ask questions. We don't always agree on things, very seldom, in fact, sometimes. However, I feel like that leads us to ask the tough questions, the important questions, and to move forward. I try to be, you know, when we're on a council, it's nice. I don't think that anybody really walks away from a discussion disagreeing with somebody that they don't understand why the person voted that way. I think the council does well at explaining why they voted a certain way. Where I do have some concerns is I think that from time to time we delve too much into socially engineering our community. I think there are things that local government just should not dig into, you know, and that's probably my biggest concern.
Okay, and then we can move on to Shannon.
I agree with Bobby. I believe that the city council is sitting at about a B. For many of the same reasons that she mentioned. I also agree that we have had an amazing mayor. Mayor Carlson has really done a great job, I think, to be that cohesiveness and between the council and with the council representing their wards. I think she really has done a good job. I've attended a number of city council meetings over the last 3.5+ years and have witnessed that firsthand on many occasions. You know, I do think that there is an opportunity for city council to be more collaborative. I think that, you know, to Todd's point, there are some challenges and some questions that are put out there by the city council members. But I think that when I'm mayor, I would be able to facilitate a more concrete and very positive dialogue between the city council members on the issues, to be able to facilitate that that opportunity for them to have more responses to the questions, to think critically, and to be able to have that dialogue that really truly represents their constituents.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. And now we get on to see who starts this. And I know I'm going to get mixed up with who starts what. So it starts with Todd again, I believe. So, all right. Okay, Todd. Oh, yeah, this is kind of a fun one. How big of a thinker are you? Big picture stuff here. What do you envision Alexandria to look like 20, 30 years down the road from now? Feel free to dream a little.
Yeah, the way you stated that is kind of funny because if some of you think back when Virgil was on the council, Virgil used to talk about the 20 and the 40 and even the 50-year view of Alexandria, and that's important. We just finished the 2040 comprehensive plan. We're looking at some big studies. Planning Commission just talked just the other night about 3 big studies: a historic plan, a downtown plan, and a Viking Plaza plan, and tried to prioritize what we were going to do, when we were going to do those, and how we were going to look at Alexandria going into the future. Planning Commission is a wonderful thing to be on. I've enjoyed my 8 years on that, because we do that a lot. We take a look at down the road. When my wife and I moved here 26 years ago, I've got an Alexandria story, and I'll share it with some of you afterwards because it's a little long, but I want to see Alexandria continue to grow over the next 15, 20, 25 years. But I want to see it continue to be what brought us here in the first place 26 years ago. I mean, I don't want to see us lose that feel that made my wife and I want to live here.
All right, good. And then we'll go next with Shannon.
Well, I am very much a big thinker. For those of you who do know me in this room, I am very, very visionary minded. I can see into the future and all of the steps that it's going to take to get there. And so for me, I see Alexandria having that same feel that we all love. Every time we come off the interstate and are home again, we have that feeling of, oh, we're home, and isn't this a beautiful community? But I do see a great opportunity for jobs, specifically in our amazing manufacturing industry here in Alexandria. I think the manufacturing sector is expanding by leaps and bounds, and we have some real opportunities at the city level to collaborate and with economic development to collaborate to bring in more AI and more advanced manufacturing. I think that there's a huge opportunity to have more collaboration within the school systems, also within with the technical and community college, to be able to offer retraining, on-the-job training, to be able to continue to have jobs for people to come into this beautiful community, for all of the people. I know, as someone who's moved back, I have a lot of friends who've moved back to Alexandria, and one or the other of the partners is not able to find a job right away. And so it's a really important thing to me to be able to have that level of family wellness and level of job opportunity and education in the growth plan. And then lastly, family wellness is really important, and that means all sorts of things, but it for me means making sure that our natural resources are continued to be preserved. We have such beautiful lakes here in our community, and that is what drives our economy. And so I think it's going to be really important that that vision continues to include that.
All right, that's good. And then we go to Bobby.
Okay, so I too am a visionary person. One of the jobs I had at Rural Cellular Corporation was I was the director of product development, which means that I was out building new features for your cell phone 5 to 7 years before you guys ever even got to see them. So kind of by profession, I'm kind of out there. But anyway, the other thing is, for those of you that are familiar with the Clifton Strength Finder, some of my strengths are maximizer, learner, achiever, and input, which means I love to collect data and then see how I can use it. In maximizer, if you have a resource, you're going to look for a whole bunch of different ways to use that same resource. In Alexandria, one of the resources that we have that we cannot easily grow is land. So land use is going to be really important in the upcoming years. You know, when Shannon was talking about jobs, I see that a little differently too. Remember we talked about COVID? We've had some great opportunities to learn about telework and how to minimize the amount of land for office buildings. Those are some of the things that we need to keep an eye on. I'm also on the board, I'm chair of the board for ALP Utilities. Everybody's squawking about green, going green. You guys would not believe how green ALP Utilities is. We have, over the years, become more and more green. We just are really bad about telling that story. This morning I was able to attend a ribbon cutting ceremony for a new electric car charging station out at Simon's, and that's not the first one in town. So that's kind of where I see Alexandria in the next 20 to 30 years.
All right, good, thank you very much. And see, next time we'll start with Shannon, I believe. Yes, okay. Here we go. As mayor, you'll preside over the meetings and are responsible for keeping the conversation focused and on track. So please share any experience you had in leading meetings and discussions, and how would you approach this task?
So I sit on multiple boards as well in the community and outside of the community, and I have facilitated lots of meetings. As I mentioned earlier, I am a contractor with the Small Business Administration, and so with COVID, we've been facilitating all of our meetings on Zoom. And that will be the way that we probably will continue into the future as well. But it's a different way to communicate with others, and it's a different way to facilitate. And I think that being able to communicate and facilitate both virtually and in person is a strength of mine. It's something that I've been able to apply firsthand and really get conversation and dialogue going. I'm able to ask questions, pinpoint who needs to jump in, maybe prompt those kinds of things. And as mayor, I will really be that cohesiveness, making sure that everyone's having that open opportunity and open environment to have the dialogue that needs to happen on all of the issues.
All right, good, thank you. And Bobby?
All right, my thoughts on that are, as mayor, you don't get to vote. So you need to have an awful lot of impulse control. And we're also a nonpartisan group. We are meant to be nonpartisan, which I think is a huge benefit for any municipality. I am not required to vote a party line on anything as a council member. As mayor, of course, there is meeting control. You know, I've been down the road of parliamentary procedures, even won a national competition about 1 million years ago. And the whole virtual meeting thing is just a way of doing business for most of our businesses anymore. If you're going to be doing business internationally, you're going to do it virtually. The one thing though that's different with government is we cannot, by law, at least at this point, do virtual meetings unless we're in a state of emergency. That's the only reason we can do Zoom right now, which I think is really unfortunate. And I hope that once we get past this, we'll change it, because it really allows for great engagement from the public at the meetings. But if we were not under an emergency right now, if you wanted to be part of a council meeting, you need to be in the chambers to do that. And of course, we always have the little breaks that we can take if things get hot, and they do sometimes get hot because we're individuals with opinions and more than happy to share them. And as far as meeting control is another important point for the mayor, is it is her job to put the agenda together. And it is her job to stick to the agenda as decided.
All right, thank you, Bob. And we'll go to Todd.
You know, in my 7.5 years on the council, as I said, I've spent 5 years as the president of the council. I was president for 5 years. I was in that position. There were times when the mayor was gone, the mayor was out of town, on vacation, whatever, that I've led those meetings, that I've led those work sessions. This is nothing new to me. This is something that I did a number of times over that period of time. And also, like I said, I sit on the West Central Initiatives Economic Development Board as the chair. That's a board of 30-something individuals from across the 5-county region. Sometimes it's like trying to herd cats on that board. You know, you just have to bring your experiences and your knowledge to those situations. It's much like Bobby said. You have to lead through example of leadership, and I've done that. You know, I've experienced that, and this is what I bring to the job.
All right, thank you, Todd. All right, then the next question, we'll be starting with, let's see, Bobby? Yeah. Yes, all right, so we start with Bobby. Let's talk about taxes.
Let's do it.
Isn't it fun? Everybody likes
love
taxes.
taxes.
There we go. Last year, the council approved a $7.3 million budget, and that amounted to a levy increase of 4.5%. The Alexandria mayor serves on the city's budget committee. So describe your experience in setting budgets, and then you can get into a little bit, are there items in the city budget that you would cut Or is there something that you would never cut? All right.
Never is a really long time, so no, there's nothing I would never cut. Everything is up for grabs, and like I said, I've been on the budget committee for 4 years. Every single one of those years, and then a couple of years the first time around on city council. So, every single year, we bring in every department head. We go through their budget for the previous year. We talk about their vision for the next year. We talk very candidly about what they must do and what they want to do and what the difference is between the two. About 4 years ago, we started a new process of budgeting, which is called priority-based budgeting. It's where, I know this seems like a no-brainer to you guys, but okay, we're talking government budgeting. It's where you take the actual income and you match it up to the expense that goes with it. And at the end of the day, what falls out is what's not covered by income, and there's an awful lot, okay, that's why you have property taxes. That's what's not covered by income, and what needs to go, or what do we need to keep, or where do we need to improve. Now remember, we have to have new police cruisers every couple of years. We keep our trucks and vehicles until the wheels literally fall off of them. I've seen it happen. And so, we're really pretty responsible. You're still gonna see an increase in your property tax though. And the reality of it is, and I don't think you're gonna wanna hear this, but the reality of it is, living in Alexandria, that property tax increase is much lower than our surrounding communities. And I'm talking about communities that are pretty similar, and that would be Wilmer, Fergus Falls, Little Falls, Bemidji, Grand Rapids. We are very fortunate that, yes, we have to increase property taxes because it does cost to have services. If you don't want services, we can have a 0% in tax increase.
All right, good, then, it goes to Todd.
Yeah, and Bobby's correct. I mean, it's a balance. We have to have that property tax increase, to provide those services. One thing we've been able to do over the past several years is that property tax increase has been very, very comparable to our tax capacity increase, and that's the one thing that the budget committee has failed in the past several years, in my mind, to completely explain to the community and to try to get people to understand is the new buildings, the new properties that are added to the tax roll that increase tax capacity. Our levy increase has been pretty close to neutral with that increased tax capacity. But when people look at their statement, they see an increase. It's not always just the city. We're dealing with the county and the school district's levies as well. So I think education has been a huge issue with what we do and how we do it. And I think that's an area that, as a budget committee, we need to work on going forward. I too have served on the budget committee. It's a long, daunting, challenging process. We start early in the year. We start in February or March, working on next year's budget. So it's something that you have to be involved in. You have to dig in on, and I'm looking forward to that challenge.
All right, and Shannon.
So these two have participated on the committees, and I have not. So you may be asking, what kind of experience does she have with managing a budget of this size? When I worked in advertising for Ogilvy and Mather, I managed a $10 million budget for my client, and we had to go through the process of determining all of the things, not unlike what Bobby mentioned. Where does the income come in? Where are the expenses, and what's left over? And so, being a manager on that account, or the manager on that account, and having to manage that budget for those clients is a liken to the mayor having to, sit on working with the committees and having to facilitate those kinds of conversations to be sure that the budget is as balanced as it can be. I do think that, to Bobby's point, you should never say never, and I can't think of anything that should, never be taken off or should be taken off. I think that, it's up to the council people to determine what their wards want from the city and what's important to them, and then it's the role of the so, in terms of balancing the budget, it's something that I'm not, you know, not a novice to, and I look forward to being able to participate in that process locally.
All right, thank you very much. Let's see, what do we have next? And who starts? Let's see, back to Todd. All right. The question is, what are your ideas for getting more people involved in council meetings and in decisions?
This has been a challenge for us for years. One of the biggest frustrations I've had over the years that I've been on the council is lack of participation. We don't, typically when we have a council meeting, we don't see people at that meeting unless they're actually on the agenda. You know, one of the things that one of the upsides, if there are any, to this whole pandemic and whole situation we're in is as Shannon mentioned with the Zoom meetings, we've actually started to see people become involved. So I think we need to look to the future here, creative ways that we can integrate technology and integrate other things to try to get people involved. Committees is another area. We've struggled for years trying to get people involved in committees, and I think we need to reach out and advertise, and I think we need to actually go out and look for people and have conversations, not just throw ads in the newspaper and hope that people apply. No.
Yeah, no offense.
Yeah, no offense, you know, I think as a council, we need to do a better job of trying to reach out and look for people that fit those roles and fit those boards and committees. We've got some great people that do serve the city, don't take me wrong, but we can always use more.
All right, good. And then we go back around to Bobby. Where's it go that way? Wait.
Wait, I can tell Shannon's just dying to say something.
There we go. So then we'll make sure Shannon gets her time.
Will you repeat the question?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Al?
It was a little involved, yes. We certainly can do that. What are your ideas for getting more people involved in council meetings and decisions?
Thank you. You know, for me, as someone who doesn't actively participate on a council at this time, but is very involved in attending the meetings, I think it's really important to have transparency about when the meetings are happening, how they're happening, that something as simple as the city website gets updated on a regular basis, things that are announcements or things that the city council is asking for, or maybe people are, they're seeking committee members. I think there's a very easy way to have that kind of transparency and to get that word out to the public. As someone who worked in marketing and advertising, I agree with Todd. I think that there are a lot of very creative channels that can be utilized that are free to be able to spread the word about what's on the agenda this week, what's happening in city council, what's upcoming, what are the committees talking about, what kind of committees need more support and more input from people of the city. So I do think that a big thing for me as mayor is that I would want to utilize the connections that I've made over my lifetime living here in Alexandria, but also that I've made being back in the community from varying different leadership roles in all sectors of society. I think it's really important that we're hearing voices from everyone. And as Bobby mentioned, as a nonpartisan role as the mayor, I think it's really important to be sure that we have all voices at the table from our constituents. And so I would work very hard to facilitate that and really have a very boots on the ground approach to assuring that the community feels welcome at city council meetings and feels welcome having their voice heard.
All right, thank you very much. And then we'll go to Bobby.
Well, I know you're gonna be surprised to hear this, but I see it a little differently. I honestly think over the last 6 years that when we've had openings on committees, it kind of has been almost an embarrassment of riches. We do have applications for the open positions, and we have multiple applications for some of the positions. And yes, there are some that have gone unfilled probably for a year or two because it's not the most popular committee in town. But what I've thought about during this campaign these last few months is that I want to start something new as mayor. and I call it build a bench. And to build the bench, you have to be willing to step forward and say, you know, I think I'd like to do that, but I'm a little uncertain about how to do it. I'm a little doubtful that I can do it, and I don't know, I'm kind of scared to do it. So my thought is a mentorship program where it's just very informal, but it's like really any of the citizen leadership programs that many of you have been in. You're brought into a group, it's explained to you what your responsibility is, what the decisions are that you have to make, what meeting attendance looks like. You go to some meetings, and then you can, with knowledge, make the decision if you want to apply for a board or not. I think we need to get a little bit better on the whole publicity thing, because some of these groups are really a lot of fun to be involved in, but the way we promote it, not so much. So that's my deal. Build a bench. That's what I want to do when I'm mayor.
All right, good. Let's see, what do I have? The next one? Yep. And there might be some people leaving. That's all right. We only have about 3 questions to go.
Oh my gosh.
That's it, but they'll be quick ones. All right. Let's see, who starts this one? What's finished? So.
Oh, I finished. So. I finished.
Shannon. All right. Here we go. Alexandria has an unofficial slogan. Used to be official, but not so much anymore. But people still say it. Easy to get to, hard to leave. Do you believe that's still true? And for bonus points, if you can come up with your own type of slogan, what would it be?
Well, my slogan for my campaign is another perfect tomorrow. Because I believe that here in Alexandria we can build another perfect tomorrow if we all work together collaboratively. So yes, easy to get to, hard to leave. I think that's true for many. It's not true for some. I spoke to a woman recently who has lived here for 5 years and who's never felt welcome in the community, and has really challenged that slogan. You know, during my campaign, I've actually actively sought out and put on my social media all of the ways that I think that Alexandria is easy to get to and hard to leave, and so I've researched a lot of the history of Alexandria and figured and gone to the varying places in Alexandria and taken my family there and taken photos and talked about my experience. One of them, Noonan's Park, the trail, and so forth. And that's something that I'm going to continue throughout my campaign, because I think that there's a need to remind all of us that in order to build another perfect tomorrow, we need to remember how and why Alexandria is easy to get to and hard to leave, and how we have all these amazing places in our community right inside of the city limits, and that's what I'm focusing on. I'm not focusing on any of the resources outside of the city limits in my own campaign, and so I think that it's really important to take a few minutes, particularly during this time of COVID, where we're at home a little bit more, we're with our families a little bit more, we might not be traveling as much as we had in the past, and reconnect with all of the amazing resources and parks and things to do that we have right inside our own beautiful city, because I, as mayor, am committed to building another perfect tomorrow.
All right, thank you very much. And then we go to Bobby.
And I really like easy to get to, hard to leave. And it really hurt me when the decision was made to go to something else. Because I could stand up at a meeting of other city officials that, you know, when it's hosted here, and say, Alexandria is a place that's easy to get to, right? You agree with that? It's hard to leave. And I'm not even talking about law enforcement. So, you know, it was a great thing. But one of the things that came up in place of that is to make Alexandria the place you choose. And I am solidly behind that, because as I go through city council meetings and watch us and listen to us as a group make decisions, we are proactively saying that, okay, does that make Alexandria, by making that decision, are we making a decision that would encourage you to choose to have your business, have your family, have your party in Alexandria? And I think I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to share the time, but that's just kind of the way I feel about it.
All right. Thank you, Bobby. Then we can go to Todd.
you know, I've been here for 26 years now, and like I said, when I came here, I have my own Alexandria story, and I feel like Alexandria, for the most part, is still easy to get to and hard to leave. You know, but one of the things I've noticed over the years that in my involvement in going to different functions for city council, through the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities, through the League of Minnesota Cities, is wherever you go, even personal travel, wherever you go, you start talking to people, and as soon as they find out you're from Alexandria, they have an Alexandria story. Either they have relatives that live here, they come here to fish, they vacationed here as a kid, they come to use the bike trail. I mean, everybody seems to have that Alexandria story, and I think we need to embrace that and share that and promote our city more. Several years back, as a council, we talked about the fact that we need to treat Alexandria like a business, and we hired a marketing person, and I think we don't take advantage of that, and I think that going into the future here, we need to take advantage of that and try to find out what people's Alexandria story is.
All right, thanks. Wow, that all three answers, right? Okay, good. Dan, right before the, just one more question before the wrap up, and really easy. What are your hobbies or passions or interests away from work? And who gets to start that one? That would be Todd.
You know, I'd like to go through my hobbies and my passions. I like to fish. I like to golf. I'm going to tell you that my boat hasn't hit the water for 2 years now. I've golfed once this year. If any of you are familiar with that little publication, the Coffee Times here in town, my wife and I have owned that for 15 years too. We do that 5 days a week. I'm on the council. 3 years ago I bought a farmer's insurance agency, so I'm still in that initial phase with that, trying to get that going. And we're just busy people, and right now if I can squeeze out 15 or 20 minutes to sneak down in the basement and play guitar in the evening, that's a treat for me. So that's probably my biggest hobby, is just to sneak away and play guitar a bit.
All right, good, thanks, man. And then Bobby.
Somebody told me I needed to get a hobby here pretty quick, because if I was gonna retire, I needed to have something to do. I think the simplest way to put it is I just really like helping people. You know, in my job as a tax preparer, I see hundreds of people a year, and I get to help them in a lot of their financial things. I'm a grandma. I absolutely love that I have a 2-year-old granddaughter. She is the most amazing human being in the world. And I absolutely love being part of her care providing team, or whatever you want to call me besides grandma. An avid reader. Remember, one of my strengths is input and learner. I just like reading everything. I like reading technical things from my experience at work as product development person. I had to read very technical white papers. I loved reading them. I love reading biographies, autobiographies, a little fiction once in a while is good for the soul. I love reading scripture. I love meditating. I do, honestly, I very much enjoy being quiet. So much of my life is in front of other people that I do very much enjoy just sitting on the swing in the backyard and having a cup of coffee.
All right, thank you. And wrap it up, Shannon.
Yeah, so there's a movie that I watched as a teenager that said that there are 24 usable hours in every day. And I absolutely believe that, and I think that a lot of that, at least some of that time, maybe it's 1 hour, needs to be devoted to something to move the body, move the mind, and move the soul. And so every day I try to do at least one of those things. I am an active outdoors person. I love to fish. I spend a lot of time at the lake. You'll see me rollerblading with my dog and my child in the stroller through town. If you see that crazy person flying around, that's me. And I love utilizing the trail. And so, you know, for me, it was a huge privilege for me to be able to move back to my hometown because I wanted to be closer to all of the amazing resources we have in this community, and be able to still do all of the things that I love in my career. And so hobbies, I really, really love to spend as much time outside as possible, but you know, I like to explore and I like to learn about the history of our community and why people, you know, came here in the first place. And so I do a lot of that exploration with my family and by myself, and I really, you'll see me out and about. Someone told me once that I'm everywhere, and so it's true because I really love interacting with our community.
Right. Okay, that brings us to the last bit, which is the 2-minute wrap-up. So, you have 2 minutes for closing statements, and you might want to answer the question, why should people vote for you, somewhere in there. Yeah. So then we can start with, I lost track again. Well, she's finished it up, so then I'll look backwards on the question. So it'd be Bobby then, right?
Yeah. Fine.
It's
Sure,
Bobby.
why
She
not?
can go ahead
Why
and do
not?
it.
Well, my thoughts are that the mayor is the CEO of the city. She's the face of the city. You guys don't all leave town every day at the same time and go out and say, rah, rah, Alexandria. The mayor is the cheerleader of the city. She also has to take the brunt of the criticism. She bears sadness of harm done to the city. This year I'm the mayor pro tem, and the mayor happened to be out of town the day that we had the fire. And so I slipped into that position, and it was just one of the saddest days. And when you're the mayor, you feel every ounce of that weight. So you need to be able to do that. I honestly believe I am the best candidate because, like I said before, not only do I have experience, I have the right experience, I have the depth of experience. I very much I am in it to win it, folks. And I have the confidence. I'm ready to embrace the role, and I'm ready to embrace the people that will come with that role, all 14,000 of them. And I'm gonna hit the ground running. I'm gonna be ready on day one. In fact, heck, I'm ready today. Let's go.
Okay, thanks Bobby. Then we'll go to Todd.
You know, I said I was gonna share my story with anybody that wanted to hear it after my Alexandria story, with anybody that wanted to hear it after the meeting, but I think I'm gonna take this last couple of minutes just to tell it to you. 26 years ago, my wife and I were living in Wilmer at the time, and we literally woke up one morning and said, this is not the type of community we want to live in anymore. It had just changed, and she asked where I would like to live, and I suggested Fargo-Moorhead because I worked for a company out of that area. I suggested Alexandria because I had worked for an entire summer here in town and lived out at the Elm Motel during the week and drove home on weekends. Peg didn't want to go even look at Fargo-Moorhead. So we spent the next 3 weekends driving up and just exploring Alexandria. And the third week we looked at Noonan Park, we went out to Geneva and looked at the pier, City Park. We drove all over town. And the third weekend that we were up here, we were walking through the downtown area, and an elderly couple stopped us on the street and just started visiting with us. And as soon as they walked away, my wife said to me, this is where I want to live. Because that wouldn't have happened in Wilmer. This was just a different type of community. And I've told people for years now, the reason I'm on council is because I want to see Alexandria continue to grow and prosper and be everything that can possibly be. But I don't ever want to see it lose what it was that made my wife Peg and I decide that we wanted to live here. And that's my Alexandria story.
All right, good. Thanks, Todd. And then we have Shannon to wrap it up.
Well, you know, I believe that I am the best candidate for mayor because of the energy that I'm going to bring to the role. I think that there is a huge opportunity for growth and development in this community that we have seen throughout the years, but that will be able to continue into the next 20, 30 years. In 30 years, I'll be the age of my parents right now, and I will be of retirement age. And I will still be in this community vibrant and supporting and doing all of the things that I love and want to see develop more right now. And so, you know, I think that this community has such a great opportunity to be and continue to be all of the amazing things that we love about it. But as I said before, it's not going to be without collaboration and without listening to other people's voices and making sure that everyone's opinions are heard and that everyone's opinions are considered. I think that we have such a vibrant small business community that will continue to flourish and grow, and our downtown will continue to be that place that people come every summer to vacation and where they're going to have that interaction with the elderly couple on the street. We're so welcoming, and as mayor, I will want to continue to welcome more and more into our city, both from a development perspective, but from the perspective of collaboration and energy. I really think that we can all work together over the next 30 years to build another perfect tomorrow.
All right.